In 1752, Lawrence dies of tuberculosis, only in his mid-30s. Mount Vernon didn't pass to George. It passed to Lawrence's infant daughter, Sarah, and his widow, Anne, holding a life interest in the property. George Washington had no legal claim to Mount Vernon at that moment. None. It was only because Lawrence's will had a contingency built into it, a clear instruction for what should happen if Sarah died without children of her own, that George was even in line at all. Sarah died young, just a couple of years later, and even then George didn't simply inherit the estate outright. He first leased Mount Vernon from Lawrence's widow, Anne, and only secured full ownership years later in 1761, after Anne's death. This is the part of the story legal nerds like me think about, and regular folks don't. Two deaths, three transfers, nearly a decade of uncertainty about who really controlled the property, and under what terms. And the only reason Mount Vernon ended up exactly where history needed it to, in George Washington's hands, is that Lawrence's estate plan accounted for outcomes nobody wanted to think about. What happens if my daughter doesn't survive me? What happens if she never has children? Who's next in line? How do we make that automatic instead of a fight? This is called a contingent beneficiary, and most wills I review don't have one that actually works. This is exactly the kind of provision that separates an estate plan that survives contact with real life from one that doesn't. Most people write a will or trust, assuming that their first choice of beneficiary will simply be alive, willing and able to inherit when the time comes. Lawrence Washington's generation buried children constantly. He had no illusions about that. His will planned for the version of the future that actually happens to families, not just the version everyone hopes for. In my own practice, this is one of the single most gaps I find when I review someone else's will or trust for the first time. A primary beneficiary named, no real thought given to what happens if that person predeceases the plan or dies without heirs, or simply isn't in a position to inherit when the time comes. When that gap exists, state default law takes over, and state default law does not know your family, your values, or what you actually wanted. Without a contingency plan, the state decides, not you. If you're interested in taking control back from the government, reach out to me. I offer a free 20-minute conversation to give you answers and the next steps to make a plan of your own.